Welcome back, everyone. It is now September 17th of 2023, and it's crazy how fast time is just flying. Before you know it, we will be going through everything of what happens with Disney for the last quarter of 2023. We know that Bob Iger is going to be making some crucial announcements during the last earnings call of this year. It should be around November, give or take, so keep your eyes open for that. But as for Snow White and everything going on over at Disney, we know that the damage control has been hitting rock bottom for a while now, and basically they're in a phase of desperation. They don't really know what to do with the brand, they don't know what to do with themselves as a company, and it's really putting Bob Iger in a real full panic mode. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. And let's get into what's going on with the Snow White franchise, as Disney was actually aiming to craft it into that. Now we know that they're doing the same exact thing with The Lion King. They're trying to expand it into a cinematic universe with a Mufasa prequel. There's also talks of a Scar prequel movie and even a direct sequel to The Lion King back in 2019. Now, further, what's going on with Snow White right now is that we know that Rachel Zegler is the very individual, the very actress that really stirred up a lot of drama behind the scenes, not just between herself and the Disney higher-ups, but also with director Marc Webb. We already talked about those tensions between Rachel and Marc, and how Gal was pretty much, stuck in the middle between the two. And look, I'm not defending Gal or anything like that. I still think that she is a part of the problem. She could have easily turned down this role. She knew exactly what she was getting into, but let's move on. Now, given that Disney's damage control for Snow White continues to keep hitting an all-time low, with what's been going on behind the scenes, one major development has to do with the cancellation of a Snow White project, and the factors that went into this major decision by Disney. Now, apart from the Zegler fiasco, one significant factor that went into the cancellation of the Snow White sequel movie also had to do with actress Gal Gadot and Marc Webb, the director, falling into creative differences. Now, this led to Marc Webb getting fired from the project entirely after the creative differences continued. As it turns out, Webb didn't want Gal to return as the evil queen and strictly wanted the sequel to be an accurate adaptation of the film Happily Ever After from 1989. These conflicts caused Gal to walk away from the project. Despite all of these creative issues and how Webb was removed and lost his Snow White movie deal, the final nail in the coffin for the film was when Rachel Zegler was removed from several Disney projects, including this one, after her interviews went viral from not so long ago. Now guys, let me just stop here for one moment before I get to the next big piece of this development, is that we already talked about how this Snow White sequel was in active development. They were going to announce it either at this year's D23 or during the last earnings call by Disney, which, by the way, yes, is in November. And so that's what they were aiming to do. They wanted to announce it this year, set it up. They were going to release this thing in 2026. Obviously, with the strikes, I don't think they would have met that, demand. I don't think they would have met that year to release it, and realistically speaking, it probably would have been 27, to be very clear. But looking at all of that, when you look back at what they're doing with Snow White, look how long it took them to make this movie. They did not begin shooting until, March of 2022. And here we are, it's the end of 2023, practically, right? And we're just in the last couple of months now, and this thing is not releasing until March. So the fact that this cancellation of the Snow White sequel not only had to do with Rachel Zegler, but that Marc Webb, the director, had a very big hand in the cancellation, on the start of it all. Rachel was really the final push, and we'll talk about that in a second. She was really the one that caused the overall final decision by Disney to just pull the plug on this project. Now, we know that Marc Webb is somebody that's very much demand, driven. He wants to have things his way. He's very much a control freak from what it sounds like when it comes to him being a creator, as a director, as a writer, whatever have you. We know he was very similar in a sense to that with Sony and The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. He was very much like that as well. He wanted to do all these different things. He didn't get to do them. And that's what really led to a lot of conflicts also for The Amazing Spider-Man 3, and then the whole Andrew Garfield drama started that caused for Sony to just pull the plug on that project. So Marc Webb has now been attached to 2 franchises where a sequel was officially canceled, and there was a lot of drama behind it all. It happened with Sony, and now it's happening with Disney. And it's kind of ironic, if you ask me, guys. It's almost like Marc Webb. Anywhere he goes, this happens. So, moving on forward, this is where matters get even worse, alright? So, that was the final push for the Disney board to move forward and cancel that sequel outright. Disney wanted to focus on the resurrection of the Evil Queen to be the bigger focus, while Marc Webb wanted to focus more on her evil brother called Lord Malice. Disney did not want to do that because it would follow the exact timeline of Happily Ever After 1989. Something that Webb didn't like was how repetitive it would have been to resurrect the Evil Queen, which, guys, I do agree, that is a little repetitive and odd, but moving on. Again, after her death in the first film, this would have been something that Marc Webb did not want to pursue. This was before Disney's plan for a Snow White cinematic universe actually fell. As it turns out, both Mark, Gal, and Rachel all together were the leading cause for Disney to pull the plug on this massive project that they aimed to release sometime in 2026, followed by 2 prequel movies. So the prequel movies were going to come after the sequel. Webb was going to essentially get a Snow White 4-movie deal by Disney, including the 2024 film that went south after these conflicts. So basically, now that Marc Webb has no Snow White movies to work on, I don't really think he has anything major that he's got up and coming. You know, he's really got nothing on his IMDb that's of significance. When you look at Marc Webb, he really is kind of in a bit of a rut right now. And you know what? I mean, that's what you get for working with Disney in a way. They're always having some kind of fiasco, some kind of drama behind the scenes. And I still, like I said before, I find it very ironic that this is the second time that this has happened to Marc Webb. It happened with Sony when The Amazing Spider-Man 3 fell because of 2 reasons: creative differences and the whole Andrew Garfield drama. I'm sure that you guys know exactly what I'm talking about if you have been following a lot about movie news over the years. But what's interesting about this further is the fact that Disney wanted to make this into a cinematic universe, and I just think that's absurd. I'm glad that they canceled it. I'm glad that this is never happening. And the fact that now their plan is to just create another iteration of Snow White instead. Basically, they are remaking the remake. Alright, this is no joke. That is their overall plan right now behind the scenes. They are planning to reboot the Maleficent movies and give us a different take on Sleeping Beauty. They are going to reboot Cinderella 2015, as well as Beauty and the Beast 2016. And that's the overall game plan. They want to embrace that DEI agenda. So whatever kind of distaste that you have with Snow White, prepare for something like that with those films. So anyway, guys, drop a comment below. Fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.